I'll call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah.
And,
If you could say.
I sure can.
okay, first up, DPW project updates. Dennis, the floor is yours.
Good evening.
Hey, Dennis.
Hi, Dennis. How you doing?
No.
Good.
Everybody's excited to see you.
I guess so.
Yeah.
We haven't seen you for so long,
It's
Dennis.
missed.
Yes.
So there are a lot of projects going on in public works these days, but I thought I would just highlight a few of those, just the really large ones that probably have interest in. So Fisk Ave reconstruction, the bid went out the end of January. We'll be opening that bid on the 27th of this month at 10 o'clock in this very room.
Excellent.
This is a $2 million project, the complete reconstruction of the roadway, granite and concrete sidewalks. I'm going to highlight a couple of the neat things that are going on there, folks at home and for you all to understand. One is we're going to be doing some traffic calming on this road. So when I say traffic calming, I mean in addition to regular signage, there's going to be, the speed control signs that tells you how fast you're going.
Yes.
That's built into this project. So there'll be one on both ends of Fisk, on the side where the school is.
Good.
Obviously, for the short section of that.
Yep.
We are following complete streets to the best of our ability. Keep in mind, this is a narrow right of way. So we didn't have enough width without doing takings to add bike lanes and such. So we have a sidewalk, obviously, that will meet ADA and AAB. And we will have lit crosswalk at the school, like you have down by Dunkin' Donuts. So that'll be an increase in the safety. I noticed that a lot of people, a lot more than I realized, actually walk on that road.
Yes.
We do.
And we spent a lot of time saving trees. Anybody that travels that road knows on one side, the westerly side of the road, the trees are well developed and they're right on the street. So in an attempt to not take them all down and upset a lot of people, we worked very hard on investing in the right of way to be able to keep those trees and protect us. That's kind of the highlights. The project, when it goes out to bid, it'll be approximately a 240-day project to substantial completion, and the contractor will be expected to have the project 100% complete in 270 days. Any questions on this?
When do you think it'll start?
So if we open the bids on the 27th of this month, we will most likely it'll take 2 weeks to crunch all the numbers, do the reference checks, letter of intent after that. Probably the very end of March it'll be awarded.
Yeah.
Okay. Good news.
Brief update on Governor's Landing. I think you're aware that we opened the bids.
Mhm.
I can't speak too much to it because we're in the process of doing reference checks on the apparent low bidder right now. And we're crunching the numbers to make sure that everything's correct. So I can't say too much. I will say this, we received 12 bids, which was very good. And we're pleased overall with what we received. We expect that we'll have a contract for your consideration before the end of this month. That is a $4.9 million. Grove Street Bridge, we will receive our Chapter 85, which is crucial, on the 19th of this month. They basically have given us the nod to go ahead and apply for the grant, which I did at the end of January. So we successfully submitted our $500,000 grant application, small bridge grant, which was due by February 3rd. So that made it in and was acknowledged. The bid add date is approximately April 23rd or thereabouts. We expect to be able to have this out to bid, open it around May 15th, and we expect to award it by June 25th. It is a summer and fall project.
This year.
Yes.
Be a busy season.
That is a $1.6 million project. DPW facility update. The committee put together an RFQ.
Sorry, just a quick question. So the Fisk Ave will be work done over the summer. Grove Street will be work done over the summer. The Governor's Landing, will that work also potentially be over the summer?
Oh, yeah.
In other words, don't come downtown.
Yeah. In other words, don't bother Dennis. He's going to be busy.
Yes.
Just saying.
Awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
people will see a lot of action, so we got to prepare people for that. It's good.
So our DPW facility project, we put out an RFQ, the committee put together an RFQ, went out. We received favorable applications. The committee asked the town manager and myself to review the applications and narrow it down to the top 3 finalists, which we have done. And we'll be presenting that to the committee at their next meeting for their consideration. Hopefully, we'll be able to award it to and hire an OPM.
It was scheduled for last Thursday, but got canceled, and we're trying to get everyone's schedule to line up for that meeting.
And sorry, what was that for?
DPW,
Thank you.
will be able to
Yeah,
get rid of the camper,
Yeah,
we're here for you.
please.
sure has been pleasant lately. And for those at home, that is pure sarcasm.
My last update will be, if you recall, about a month and a half or so ago, I mentioned to the board that we were partnering with Time Bond to seek out a culvert assessment grant that was being offered.
Mhm.
We were successful.
Nice.
Oh, good.
So we will be assessing with Time Bond's assistance and no cost to the town, every culvert the town owns.
Nice.
Can we
Congratulations.
pretend that the dam over by Fin and Feather's a culvert?
Fortunately,
It's not a culvert, even.
It's a very large.
It's a culvert with a dam on one end.
If we
But that's
squint
great.
a little,
Don't let me diminish the.
Congratulations.
That's great news.
and that, those are my updates. If the board has any questions?
I don't have
Be
any
busy.
for me. Yeah, very. Brett, do you have any questions?
Is there anything you need from us?
Good.
You are.
That my mom did.
You need that.
Lots of caffeine keeps you running.
Awesome. Really
Okay.
great.
Thank you.
Amazing.
We appreciate everything, especially that grant, that culvert grant, because that was an issue. And
Yeah.
anything we can get covered by grant is always a huge help. So how about our snow and ice update? I know we bought you some sand last, or salt.
Oh.
We had the
No
resounding
salt yet,
voice, and
yeah.
unfortunately, we had to use it.
Yeah, we just.
So I prepared an update for the town manager on February 7th. So this update does not include the storm that we just had Saturday into Sunday, which was expensive. But as of the writing of this memo, we had 13 separate snow and ice events that the DPW responded to. A total of about 16.25 inches of precipitation fell. Most of it sleet and freezing rain, which we don't. Rather just snow, much easier to deal with, much safer, and salt is expensive. So the first storm fell on November 26th, and the last one before the one we had this weekend was February 6th of this year. So as of this memo, we had spent $75,000 on salt, $29,000 on DPW labor, $15,000 on hired contractors, and $31,000 on miscellaneous. That's repairs for equipment, snow, plow blades, salt, calcium chloride, those types of things. So out of the $260,000, we had spent $151,000, had about 103 left as of this memo. Like I said,
Back
equal
in
to
the last
storm.
We've gone on the way, apparently.
We have one coming tomorrow night to Thursday and another one coming Saturday night into Sunday.
Exactly.
I don't say, we've had 3 years in a row where we have not overspent snow and ice, which is unbelievable.
Yep, had to end sometime.
Yeah.
Live in New England,
We'll be
unfortunately.
bringing it to the wire, that's for sure.
Exactly. Anybody have any questions?
No.
I'm here.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Dennis, we appreciate everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
I'll be back.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Joe, town manager's report.
So first, I'd like to thank Dennis. I told him he has 10 minutes and he had 9. So
Nice.
So for things that are going on this morning, we had our first department head meeting of the month. We delayed it a week because we wanted to wait for Chief Nicholas Palmieri to join us. So it's sad we got to introduce all of our department heads to Chief Palmieri and vice versa. So some of the things that were discussed. Dennis commented just very briefly about Governor's Landing. Also want to let you know that we continue to meet internally. Now that we have construction numbers, we have a good idea as far as what we're looking at for a budget. Yesterday afternoon, we had a conference call with state of Massachusetts officials from Executive Office of Livable Communities. And specifically, they're the ones that manage the Housing Works and Mass Works grants. We identified that there was a delta, and they had previously expressed to us their ability, depending on timing, of basically addressing that delta. They used some language that was very promising that I cannot believe that they were out in front of their skis on. So I do feel that we're going to be successful in closing that delta and making sure the project can go forward until we actually have it in writing. I'm not going to count it. And then even then, once we have a contract, I'm not going to count it. But it's very promising to be at that stage and to be getting this level of support from the administration. So that will allow us to meet with the developers next week on February 18th. We're going to be coming down to the wire in our hope, because now we know numbers, we're not planning for what if scenarios. We can try to wrap this up to bring this in front of the board on the 25th. Because we have to take specific action from when the bids were opened within 30 days, that is basically the 27th. So in our typical fashion, we bundle this all together, right, and come across at the finish line with a couple seconds to spare. If it does, there are processes where you can request an extension. We just don't want to do that. So we're trying to simplify this as much as possible. Dennis talked about Grove Street as well as building OPM. As we know tonight, we're continuing our budget discussions. Did want to let you know that I am still waiting some information from the finance director, and that because of that, I've pivoted away from the budget book. I think that last week of February, we'll be able to roll it out. I'll have it so I can just dump his stuff in and put that out there. So that would be the last week of February. And I've pivoted to basically completing the annual town meeting warrant, sent a draft internal copy around to department heads for them to make sure that the numbers are right, their articles are right, and then I'll send that out to both the select board and finance committee to start reviewing. We can start discussing that. It's coming up on the 25th and then again on March 4th. Town clerk, annual census forms and dog license renewals are coming in quickly. Dogs need to be licensed by April 1st of every year. Nomination papers, as Denise said last meeting, are available and need to be submitted for certification before 5 p.m. on Tuesday, the 18th. Property taxes and personal property taxes were due last week. Water and sewer bills are out and are due March 4th. Excise taxes are being mailed out and will be due March 26th. For those of you who enroll children and kids at play, registration is now open. And next week, Recreation Director and HR Director are starting interviewing for seasonal staff and kids at play staff as well. Recreation is contracting with a new pickleball instructor and also working to develop STEM after-school programs, as well as start to line up food trucks for the summer concert series. Within ESS, we're still looking for part-time van drivers, because we're still early in this season for senior tax work-off. Tanya, our ESS director, wanted to remind everyone we have an amazing group of volunteers this year. They're already hard at work, including in my office, and that department should contact the ESS department to match candidates and their skills with departments to meet those needs. Seniors who need tax preparation assistance can contact the ESS department to schedule an interview. Those sessions, which are free and sponsored by AARP, will be conducted at the community center. The land use inspectional department is pretty busy. They're working with the planning board to finalize 5G small cell regulations. Once they're done, because with the bylaw, there is a component that intersects with the select board. We'll schedule a joint meeting to go over those and to jointly adopt. CMRPC, Central Mass Regional Planning, has been engaged to conduct analysis of the zoning bylaw to identify areas for improvements. I anticipate they'll be reaching out to also talk to get input from other staff as well as other boards on things that they think need to be updated, because we have not been silent on that.
Yes.
Earth removal.
Yes.
Conservation is reviewing applications for drainage mitigation for adjacent properties associated with 47 Main Street. That's the 40B project. So for board members who may recall going through that process, there was some of the adjacent properties. They were doing some off-site work, mitigation, landscaping, so they're permitting that with conservation. It's still anticipated that there'll be some level of activity starting in the spring for that site. And lastly, EDC is working with Dodson Flinker. They're the ones who had done the Upton Center visioning plan. They're finalizing the scope of work and scheduling to conduct a similar planning effort in West Upton. Human Resources just wants to remind everyone that the town's harassment policy acknowledgement forms are due. And on Thursday, we're meeting, the Insurance Advisory Committee is meeting. This is comprised of different staff and representatives from collective bargaining associations, as well as non-union staff, to go over insurance rates that are coming out for FY26, to review possible plan design changes. Ultimately, any changes would be brought before the select board to approve. We still have a number of openings, some of which are in DPW, labor, department specialist, water, wastewater supervisor, as well as operator, and 2 paramedics. And lastly, upcoming events. This Friday, quite a way to spend your Valentine's Day with coffee with the town manager at 9:15 a.m. to 10:30. At night is the senior dinner catered by the Rose Garden. And on the 27th, we will be having the formal ceremony for swearing in Chief Palmieri. That will be 10 o'clock here at Town Hall.
Thank you, appreciate it. So next, we're up to the joint meeting with Finance Committee and the department budget presentations. Recreation is up first. Yes, you could take the hot seat, and once again, the proverbial reminder that when you sit down, you will take off. Be careful.
We also do have Rick Porter.
Yep.
Online. Thanks, Rick.
Right.
Okay.
Thanks. Not.
Just sort of an overview for Rick and Maria. Within the board's packet is your department request that was submitted to the town manager. Specifically, at our last meeting, we discussed the increase in hours for at the beach. So that's sort of like a starting off program as far as discussing budget.
Hey, there you go. That'll help.
Rick, are you ready if I get started?
Yeah, I actually, I'll go bottoms up because that sounds like where we're going.
Perfect. So yeah, it looks like the one that's already up on the screen is actually our new ask, which is that as a department, we've looked at safety wise, where are some potential holes in our programming. And one of the biggest holes that we've looked at is having some support if the recreation director is not available at any specific time. This could be
sick, this could be injured, this could be what we ran into a few years ago before I started, which was the transition between recreation directors. But if at any point in time the recreation director is not on call in a moment, we have identified that there's a pretty giant gap at our Kids at Play program with what I would describe as a qualified adult. We have wonderful staff that we hire, but to be fully blunt, they tend to be college and high school kids. And that doesn't mean that they're not fantastic at what they do, but to have a adult who has a background in handling more extreme situations, we have one position. And, you know, Andrew did it great. I think I'm doing an okay job, but it's just really saying we only have one human who can do that. So to try to fill that gap, we identified that we want to transition the program director label to be more of an experienced person, whether it's somebody, you know, who works in the school system who has summers off, or just somebody who has a little bit more experience handling some of the more extreme situations that may come up with some program. In doing that, we do need to try to work our budget around a little bit. And in doing that, we're looking to take about 20% of my the program director, sorry, the recreation director pay off of the rec revolving fund in order to fund that new position. So that 20% would go to the general fund to really align with what this position is already doing. So any of the administrative work that they're already doing, payroll, expense reports, anything that's already going on that would really happen, whether we're running programs or not. Is this position going to do this work? If the answer is yes, then we're thinking that really aligns with putting that on the general fund and then having the portion of the recreation director pay that stays on rec revolving for program B, the remaining 80%. And then what we're able to do is take that leftover funds and really keep rec revolving ask for the same, but move that down to Kids at Play in order to fund a program director position that can recruit people who maybe are a little bit more experienced than some of the current people we're recruiting. So it would be an additional position for Kids at Play by moving 20% of the recreation director position payroll to the general fund. And again, it's not for any additional work. It's really to just correctly align some of the current work that the recreation director is doing as administrative.
Rick, were you going to say something?
No, I think that just also aligns with the fact that 100% of Maria's pay right now is based off of the rec revolving account, and, you know, having some town engagement activities that aren't necessarily programs that she's working on gives us a little bit more of a better balance to be able to pay her for non-program revenue bearing work.
So what would the non-program revenue bearing work be? Sorry.
Yeah,
Well,
so I think do you want to take this?
I was just gonna say that I think that's where we were estimating. It's, you know, it's a couple hours a week. We were estimating it really to be about 1 day a week worth of time, and that's you know, that's about that 20% shift that we're talking about. That 15K.
Yeah, so what we looked at is really all of the responsibilities of the program or at the recreation director position, and saying if no programs ran, if we had another pandemic and everything in the world shut down, what would still be going on? Are we paying the electrical bills? Are we trying to run payroll? Or, you know, what are we doing? Are we still having department head meetings? Are we still, you know, all of the things that are not programmatic, they're administrative. And we looked at about 1 day a week, you know, on average throughout the whole year, was looking at that's administrative versus I'm on the, you know, the program, the recreation director is on a site at the beach or at pickleball or at yoga or whatever the programmatic side is. So it looked like that was the division. So really it's just if you're not working on the programs, 1 day a week on average was just purely administrative.
And that's sort of the way the model is built, right? Like the administrative work is meant to be funded from, or the argument is let's fund that from the general fund, but program-based work is, the revolving account is for the program work. Like, I mean, I don't, like, why couldn't we just add the money to the, or use the money in the revolving account? I don't know what the,
Yeah.
I don't know what the premise is.
That-
to support this.
Historically, the program income has funded the recreation director position.
Yeah.
And I think what we're looking at is, again, you know, if everything shut down, is there anything left in this position if a program is running? And I think our answer was yes, there's still responsibilities in this position, even if there are no programs. And we looked at about 20% of this position is fully administrative and still keeping the department afloat. Then 80% is running the programs, planning the programs, getting them all, you know, set up and then going and then finalizing.
Yeah, and maybe just to add to that, that recreation revolving, it's really a zero-sum game account. There's no money from the town that really goes into that account, or a direct ask from general fund. This is all revenue generated values from programs. You know, that one, as well as the site improvement, the parks in rec account, right? Those are the two revolving accounts that act a little bit differently, you know, that are self-funded type of accounts.
So the administrative part, isn't that, that's part of a department head's job descriptions, administrative work to run the department.
Yeah, so especially there's administrative costs associated with running Kids at Play. That is directly able to be billed back as part of the revenue model for Kids at Play. Same
Sure.
thing with administration of the soccer fields. We charge rent, and that coordination and those activities, you know, also offset similar administrative costs of those things. So any sort of program that is up and running, it should be priced to cover administrative tasks. The question ends up being, and this is really where I'd have to sort of ask the question, or at least turn it to Rick, is that the Recreation Commission also wants to expand. And sometimes through expansion, it's almost, you may not get people to sign up. So there's those efforts and those tasks associated with starting up a program that may never collect a dime. How does that get covered? So that's in talking with Maria and Rick over the last year, and that's where Rick may be able to expand upon what the commission is looking for Maria to do. That may be a better thing. I think Maria had it right, that if you cut it down to only being covered by the recreation programs and the revenue they incur, the administrative tasks to run that need to be covered and are covered by that revenue that's collected.
Well, can I add, what programs aren't covered? I mean, all the programs should have a fee. And the way I saw it.
Well, sure. So, you know, there's a couple of things that that I actually referenced in here, right? With that Woo Sox takeover, right? That was an element that, you know, Maria took on. I think, Joe, you asked Maria if she could help work on this and be the representative for the town, but it really wasn't a program per se, right? So there's you know, a fair amount of time spent trying to work that takeover day that happened in August. And, you know, it's not directly related to any, you know, recreation program. It was just an event for anyone in the town that would like to have participated. Certainly the point person for the goose addling contract that we have. I say we have, right, that Joe has signed off on saying, hey, we've got all those activities, but they come to Maria and go, okay, hey, here's the schedules. We're going to go to this location, that location, the next location. It's not a program. It's a town, it's the right job for town support, of which, it's needed to be done, and we're filling that role.
Yeah, I think to add on to that, I think one of the goals that Recom and myself have really established is we want to have a nice balance between income-driven programs and either low-cost or no-cost programs. And I think, we have Boy and Girl Scouts programs that I'm coordinating, and, it's not an incredible amount of hours, but it is hours to facilitate them. They want to do sleepovers at Kiwanis Beach. They want to have the bathrooms open, coordinating with DPW. They want to think about goose poop and as safety issues. We want to coordinate with police so that they know people are going to sleep overnight. Again, it's not severe amount of hours, but even programs like that, which are wonderful for the community, take time. And I think, having right now, I'm coordinating with the Nipmuc and BBT, various school committees. They want to do a big family event, gifting them time down in Kiwanis for free, because we want those things in this community. So it takes hours on hours of time to coordinate those things. We don't want to charge them. But those types of things are all the administrative stuff, in addition to the paperwork side of things, where we want to add that to the town. And again, I go back to safety. The story that I think I've told you and I talked to them about is there was a day that I was, pretty sick, and people get sick, and luckily I haven't been severely sick, but people do. And there was a day that I had to go down because there was a day at Kids at Play where I had to speak to a parent, and it was beyond the college kids that we hire as the program directors' ability to speak to them. It involved police. It was something that needed a proper adult who has experience situation. And, I don't actually know if you all know this, but I fainted on the way home and I had to be picked up by my father-in-law. And it's severe, but it's one of those, because there is one human in this position that can be that person. And that just is a giant safety issue, in my opinion, that there is no other, what I consider qualified adult type of person there. And then, we would love to build up to have this program be much more self-sufficient, so recreation director can be handling a million other things. But right now, we just need to take a little bit off of the plate so that safety-wise, that department has a designated adult, quote unquote, in charge, and then I'm the backup, or they're the backup in me when they need time off. But to only have one person is, it's dangerous. We have water, we have kids, we have issues that we've run into the last few years.
So if the true issue is the kids at play, is it feasible to raise the cost slightly on each fee? The cost for each child to go daily or weekly, and to cover the bulk of this 15?
So last year we did raise the cost, and we did see a reduction in participation. And we can't say for sure that is a one-to-one, but we already are running on some of the higher end comparable to other towns, especially if we compare to Mendon, which tends to be a pretty direct comparison. For example, we charge for field trips and they do not. And in other ways, we are pretty comparable. So this is just my opinion, not speaking for Retcom, but I think in our upping, we do it about every 2 years. We're not quite covering the lack of people who sign up when we up it, and then we get them back after a few years because we've kept our rates steady. So I think increasing to the amount that would cover this, I would worry that we would continue to lose registrations.
And just to confirm, this is full-time adult staff member, but it's not an FTE like for the entirety of the year, right? This just means during the summer, 40 hours a week, an extra position that's funded from the revolving fund.
Yes.
And so moving that, so 20% of what's there now can cover this incremental time to have an extra adult sort of on the beach at basically at the beach all day for the whole summer to make sure that there's backup there for support.
Right, right. Because again, we're open more than 40 hours a week with kids at play. So between my position and their position, we can get all of the hours covered in addition to the weekends, where again, an adult stopping by really is beneficial.
Does anybody from finance have any questions?
I-
Yes.
Couple of questions would be,
Sure.
you mentioned in passing yoga. We talking about the same yoga that's over here at the senior center, or is this something different?
Yes, at the community center.
And they pay for it, though. That's that's, they get down and, they wanna wiggle around, they pay for it. Okay. Now, the next, my other question is.
It might actually be slightly losing money,
Yeah.
But it's- but it's close.
Why
don't you raise those fees?
We have, again, the registration goes down, and one of our goals is we look at the programs that cover. So for instance, pickleball runs at a gain and yoga runs at a loss, and we try to compensate. One of the things, again, is our goal is to try to have programs that are accessible to people in the town that are either low or no cost. And for example, yoga is one of those things that we'd love to keep cost.
you wanna say something, Rick?
Nope, I was just agreeing with what Maria
How
said.
many, what are we talking about for dollars for this? Forget it, you're talking about, so you can even say, how much?
$15,200.
That's from the general fund.
Correct.
This may be totally off the wall. This seems something that's moving. You're really not sure how this is gonna be. A William Knowlton Fund, you have all kinds of money and you have a lot of latitude there. Would it be conceivable to seek some money from the William Knowlton Fund for 1 year, put towards this program until they can see how it's gonna work, and then come back the following year and see what you have? Just asking. And they,
assess fees. I mean, kids at play goes up. All it's good.
Seems like a slippery
That's not how this revolving fund is supposed to work. It's not supposed to be, you want to expand it, so I'm gonna take from the general fund. That was not the intent of this, from what I understand.
I agree.
If you want to expand, then you guys gotta figure that out.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. We've added multiple new programs. We're having a STEM program for February break. We're adding a STEM program for after school spring. Both of those are no fee to us if they don't run, but gains if they do. Same thing, a pickleball instructor, gains if we do. So all of these programs that we're trying to run, a school and rock program for music, we're trying to gain ones where we're chipping away with an archery program. Again, these are all where each person that signs up, we might get $20-something in addition to the program. The hard thing is because we're running at such a tight budget, we can't afford to have any sort of guarantees. So we can only go with programs where they have no guarantee, meaning we know a week ahead if we cancel, everybody's cool with cutting it, but it means that we're also only going to be able to gain little chipping additions. I think as we continue to grow these programs, those $20, $40 across lots of programs will start to be significant money, but we're starting now. And I think we're identifying that these safety issues are relevant now. So we're trying to say, we're at, and we're looking to add, but we're not there yet. And the budget's so tight that we can't just add this position without that guaranteed money. And so we're looking to grow the revolving to have more income to be able to afford things like this, but we haven't reached it yet. And the safety issue is the biggest worrying factor about waiting until we get there.
So like you just said, a STEM program during February vacation, which if I'm not mistaken is next week.
Yes.
Do we have people signed up for that? And how many?
Yeah, right now we have 4 people who have reached out to me and said, yes, I want STEM. I don't want Lego based, which is the one that we were able to get. We have a different STEM program that I'm now responding to that and looking to do for spring. So responding to feedback, trying to change it up. But one of them is local, so they were able to do February break. The other one was not, so they needed time. So to answer your question, we have nobody signed up yet, but we were trying to rush it and see if we could get anyone signed up. Yeah, I do know that I spoke to Matthew this morning. He's going to help us market, so hopefully. But again, it costs us nothing if we cancel.
Right, because it's Tuesday. I assume they would want to be signed up by Friday.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, at this point,
But one never
I'll
knows.
be fully blunt, throwing things against the wall.
Yeah.
Most of the things that we've thrown have been run, but because we run them at no risk, we just keep throwing. And we're gonna keep going. And we've probably thrown 5 programs that have had 0 signups, but gotta keep trying.
So back to Mr. Flaherty's question, unless Mr. Byrne has a question. Huh?
No,
Brett, go ahead.
I was just
May I
gonna
make a
ask-
comment to the chair?
Oh,
Yes,
finding.
Rick, please,
Yeah,
sorry, I
it's
didn't
Rick-
see your
Rick-
hand. It's
Yes.
a little far away.
Yes, I'm far away, but anyway, Rick McGuire, Finance Committee. You know, we've been talking about basically, should it be in the revolving account or can we possibly take funds out of general fund? When we started many years ago with the Wednesday evening music concerts and events, we're looking at 9 to 10 days. And we looked at the first year, the amount of money that it was needed to hire bands and bring them in. We ended up reducing that count to either 6 or 7 concerts. But I just want to make a point, and that is that our cultural committee has funds available for cultural events. And I'm willing to bet that this music series qualifies for that. And another source of funding, it's coming from the state for cultural events. We can apply for funds from our cultural committee to help support some of these music events, which would lighten the load of trying to find money. So I really ask you to try and pursue some of those funds with the cultural committee because they do have funds available.
The whole reason for revolving funds is to self-support. your
Right.
department. And the only way you can do that is to increase the prices.
Yeah.
Well, but I think where Rick is going, and I apologize if I just cut anyone off, right? We do have a couple other accounts that aren't necessarily revolving accounts. What Rick was talking about is our miscellaneous beach concert account, which was 9,000 or has been 9,000 in the last year or two. Based on the over budget status, we've bumped this one down to 6, thinking that, maybe it's one less concert and maybe some lower end performers that don't have such the costs associated with them in order to put on those concerts, but to still have the concerts. And that is a general fund ask that has been there for a number of years now. Same thing with the site improvements account. Traditionally, this has been a $16,000 ask. This is another one that we actually cut it in half this year for, again, some of the budget, planning purposes in hopes that, some of the other monies for a rec director can be there. Beach staff though, and I'm sure I was going to get a question on this. We're already over budget for this fiscal year. Kenny's already applied certain funds to add into that account. And we know if we start in June, we're going to have a couple more weeks worth of pay. So the last couple of years, that account has been overdrawn, and hence it looks like we're asking for a pretty substantial increase, meaning up to 17%. But we think that that's actually just right shipping where we are with lifeguards. And I'm not so sure lifeguards is one area that we want to be thin on.
Another question, from what accounts is the finance director putting into their budget?
I'd have to get in touch with Kenny and work with Maria to identify what,
That things like that have to be voted.
I'll have to follow up with that exactly how and what is happening.
Madam Chair, that was
Yes.
the same question I had, what Mrs. Winnow just asked.
Right, and I do, to follow up with Mr. McGuire's comments, I do know Cultural Council will cover the bands, but you need to go after the grants. You know, it's free money, it's sitting there, just like Dennis, we're getting all of our culverts checked and analyzed with a grant. That's huge. That's
There's a lot of
important.
grants for Parks and Rec out there.
Yeah, there are.
Madam Chair?
Yes, yes.
Revolving fund. We're talking about kids that play over the summer, which is the beginning of the year. So what if we don't do anything here? You guys run through the summer, see where you are, and then at the fall town meeting, we're making the decision whether we have to transfer money, use free cash to offset the revolving fund. Because you're gonna know in September, which is 4 months into the year, whether you're gonna need something. So your salary is covered for summer, we're talking outside of the summer months, right?
So to clarify, I'm just, want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So you're saying, yes, try to hire the additional position and keep my salary coming out of revolving and then check in with Red? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think we want to see where it is, and then if we have to address it, we're not putting you into the general fund, that 15K to the general fund, which will probably never come out, to be completely honest, right? We're never gonna.
Go backwards, they're gonna go backwards.
I'm not saying that's exactly what's gonna happen, but you're gonna get there and then we're gonna move on. So to avoid that, you're gonna know in September, why don't we address it at that point rather than plan to do it that way? I think your safety issue is relevant. I think,
I'd agree. Yep.
but.
Instead of putting-
The fund should have been something, it's supposed to be self-support. I think that's the main thing you're doing.
And at that point, to Steve's point, we will have the benefit of time and this conversation that's taking place here now to make a more informed decision for 26, and so going forward.
I would agree with that.
I'd agree with Mr. Burns' comment.
Yeah, I mean, I could go either way on it. I honestly think that in the scheme of things, I don't know that it's an unreasonable transition or ask to make. I don't know that it's gonna break the bank, but again, every dollar counts, right? So I guess if that's the mindset and that's the attitude, obviously there's a majority of folks here that feel that way. I certainly would be fine with supporting it. It's written.
Like I
based
said,
on the
we've had
recommendation.
actual numbers to see, you know, did you find someone? It's obviously very necessary. Do you think at the end of it, was it necessary for them to be there every day? And give us a good hard number, and then we build it into next year's budget, but we'll move the money in November.
Has it increased or decreased? You know that, September.
Makes sense, I mean. Be covered one way or another.
Should those people come back at the higher rates, and there's a portion of it that's covered there, right?
Yes.
If they.
Hopefully, yeah, right.
Does,
Nice.
all right, go ahead.
Are you on town benefits?
Sorry?
Are you on town benefits?
Yes.
The town benefits, all benefits come out of that revolving fund as well.
Yes.
So if the benefit package increases, there's gonna be another demand on that revolving fund.
Well, it depends on how many hours they work. It's under 20.
I'm just saying,
My-
you know, anyway.
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
The full thing's in there, though. Yeah.
Yes,
Any further comments or questions from anyone?
To the chair, Rick McGuire.
Yes,
In part of Joe's package that he did send out, he talked about $100,000 for the field at Memorial School, Leland Field. And I don't know if you're going to save that discussion for a capital discussion or whether it's part of this session.
I would, because we have Chief Bradley here, I would want a different discussion, primarily when we start dealing with articles. because I'm still trying to refine how to get a cost for what lights need to be done for Leland Field.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else with recreation? Hearing none, seeing none? Maria, I appreciate it. Thank you. And you are back again for the, well, I guess you don't have to stick around for the approval of commission funds.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't want you to run off with, and then be looking for you. Marketing and EMS. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening.
How are you? Good.
Okay. Just an overview of the budget. As you know, you've been negotiating the new collective bargaining agreement with fire and EMS union. And so we have a preliminary agreement that still needs to be voted upon. So I'm not going to get into too many details of the specific numbers. But you can see I've included what's in the preliminary agreement in the budget, the adjusted budget that I put in last week. What we've also done is we've looked at some of our expenses to offset some of those increases. It's important to remember that this budget is for year 2 of the contract. So the delta, you're seeing the difference between FY24 and FY26. So the numbers are a little bit larger. Once we fund contract and fund FY25, I think that will be small years. So what this includes is a 2% COLA for in merit increases for non-union personnel, class and comp study, increases for call per diem employees. This is the first year that call and per diems were included in the town's comp study. So we're going to do that process to finalize that, and looking to have that fund for by the article in town meeting on the CBA. Some of the expenses that we've reduced, 2,000 in utilities, 2,000 expenses, $1,000 in ambulance service licensing certification, 1,000 ambulance service supplies, $1,000 in paramedic expense, 2,000 vehicle maintenance, and 5,000. But looking through the articles, we think that we can reduce those line items. The $5,000 in new equipment, we're able to do that because some of the firefighter safety grants, equipment grants, some pretty good situation with our turnout gear and some of our equipment. So we can lower that number for 6. On the revenue side, ambulance receipts, they're really running about 300,000. Put it 275 in the revenue budget as a conservative number. The county links to stay conservative. We have 2 items in the capital. One's replacement of an F-350 truck and a fire station rain repair. We have some additional work on both of those items, getting quotes for replacement truck. Working with probably an engineer, my good friend Dennis over there, to look at the concrete floor grates, drainage replacement. That's going to be a very costly repair. And some engineering, some further study to get a valid house for them. So we'll be working on that next 2 months.
My apologies to BOS, Select Board, as well as FinCom. Chief was working on a revise, sent it over to me over the weekend, and I just forwarded it out to you since I saw Brett scrolling through to see.
Yeah, me too. I was scrolling.
So,
It's like,
so
oh my God.
I just forwarded that to all of you, so you do have it, and all of those points that Chief was mentioning, including those reduction lines.
We were all exercising remarkable restraint.
Patiently listening.
I was pulling it up so then I can share the screen, so if you had questions, I can then pull that
Okay.
up to see.
So the budget really is a level service, same amount of employees that are in the line items. We have some work to do, bringing on some full-time people that we're short. And further down the road, looking at additional overhead coverage to increase staffing, but not for 26.
Okay.
Are you putting the money in the budget for the positions that have to be filled?
Yes, those line items are in the budget. So it's basically a 7 full-time. It was 4 paramedics, 3 firefighting EMTs. That number, that shifts to 6 paramedics and 1 EMT, firefighting EMT. Perfect world. We'll see how we can fill those vacancies. If we ended up with firefighting EMTs that are in paramedic school, we have money in training to get them to the paramedic level. That's the ultimate goal, is to have eventually everybody in paramedic level. It's going to take some time to get there.
Good.
No question. I would just point out like this, right? Like this is another $100,000 into the general fund for salary and expenses, and we just spent 45 minutes talking about $15,000. So it's just, right, like we got to always try to keep things in context when we're having conversations and
We do.
ensure. Good.
Excuse me, I mean, that's what revolving funds are for, self-supporting, that's why they have them.
Just to clarify, at least for me from the finance committee, we're not against
Yeah.
what she's trying to do, it's just how we're gonna fund it. If they were a revolving fund, I'm sure this $100,000 in the CBA we'd all be a little bit more in tune with, but, you know, they need to get what they need to get.
Yeah, I understand.
Definitely need, we'd like Steve said, just the funding, the question on how. Yes, Mr. Flaherty.
Oh, chief. Well, you will always be chief in my eyes. You indicated you're reducing your vehicle maintenance, is that correct?
Yes.
You have an aging fleet. Why would you reduce your vehicle maintenance?
Because we were asked to reduce our budget, because we were told there was a deficit in the budget. So we had to make cuts, some type of cuts to give to the town manager.
So you make
That
that.
was the answer I was expecting, but it makes, I understand the vagaries and all this goes on, but it makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, we looked at what we spent over the last couple of years, and there was some room for us to.
You're still gonna age your fleet.
We're very fortunate that we have some competent mechanics that work for us, that can weld things and put things together and save us some money, so that's why we wanted to do that.
Can I ask, what's how are we doing on the 2 ambulances? They all seaworthy?
One is fairly new, the other one's got some issues. Probably gonna have to put some money to that at some point next year. Gonna have to have the conversation. I think it's in next year, in FY 27. Capital budget. The problem is it takes probably 2 years to get one now, unless you're fortunate like we did with the last one. Or 3 years.
We bought a truck here 3 years ago, we still don't have.
So that's an issue that you have to consider as well. Move some of these capital items and order our ambulance now that we're going to get in 2 years. We have to figure that out as well, because we can't just order an ambulance when we need it. We have to order it a couple of years ahead of time. So the supply chain issues.
You know where I'm going with this, so I'm just gonna end it right there, okay?
Where are you going? I don't know.
Just a conversation I've had with the chief. It's,
That what we're here to talk about?
I'm sorry.
I thought that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking major capital purchase of vehicles like that for this truck, it's been waiting for 3 years.
Yeah.
If we order an ambulance right now, we may get it in 3 years.
Yeah.
Or a fire truck, unless we were lucky enough to buy like a demo truck like we bought before.
Right, I understand. I know, I was just asking, I didn't, you were saying that there was,
Opportunity, once the demo truck became available, it's gone.
Yeah.
Now, if we order a truck, if you went to order a truck today, that same truck is over $200,000, and you won't get it till FY 27.
So I think the real question is, it's a process issue. How do we do that? And how do we plan for that process? Ordering something now that we're gonna pay for 2 years. Making that commitment to order it now, and that's a conversation. Should start with the town manager and probably Kenny. And how do we do that? How do we plan for it? And how do we authorize it 2 years ahead of time?
2 years can be a long time.
It can
Yes,
be,
go
but
ahead.
if we put it on this coming town meeting or in the fall or whatever, if you locked it in and had a contract for the price, they gonna honor that in 2 years?
Yeah. When it comes to vehicles, pretty much, I know the book and what it has to do with fire department vehicles and stuff. And it's like right now, if we signed a contract, I could, for a truck today, there's 5 vehicles. There was 5 slots for 5 trucks that are being built. 4 of them towns were already committed to, and there's 1 slot left. They'll honor the money for that truck now. But if we lose the 5th spot, the truck's gonna be $200,000. So, but we're just not gonna be practical, be able to do it because you need a town meeting vote. So in the end, it's gonna cost the town more money to buy a truck that you can save money on. But the problem is that how do you commit to capital things that you think, you're not gonna get it for 2 to 3 years? How do you sign a contract with that builder? This became communities, town of Grafton bought a fire truck and they walked back in and told them it was $80,000 more. Then they come in and say, we need another $10,000 more. And the communities have paid it because of what was in the contract. But the problem is when you order something, how long is it taking to get it? And I would tell you that too will not make to FY 27. I have a box of rust in my office, has, because I'm the one that crawls underneath it to fix it. That's there, and my office says that too. Not gonna make it. And the state will dictate that too. They'll come in and say, it's out of service. That's a certain point.
The question is, if we roll that into this year, the 500,000 for the truck and it goes with it, what's the impact on this year's budget?
That's why
It's coming out of free cash. We're not building it into operating. So, I mean, the main question ends up being the select board, finance committee, capital. If this is something that we're really concerned about, we won't even get for 2 years. Should we be planning on putting that before town meeting, getting specs, and doing that up front because.
But not only is it the delay, it's the cost. Here, you save $200,000.
Yeah.
If this is true, and I have no reason to believe Chief Marchand, he's been buying vehicles for years. Why wouldn't we do it if you're gonna save $200,000? You tell the people, look, we do this, it's gonna cost this. We do it now, you're gonna save $200,000. If you're gonna buy a car and you could get a deal to save $80,000 buying a car, wouldn't you do it?
And the other factor too is in the trade, they're talking now, everything is that this thing with steel.
Yeah.
A sheet of steel could quadruple in price, or maybe it's probably gonna go again up and then eventually level off. But the problem is if that happens, then go build a bridge, dump truck, anything to do structural, a skyscraper or whatever, it's gonna increase stuff dramatically. It's just the thing. I still don't know how you can order something. I guess you'd have to sign a contract or something to be able to get it to that point, but it's an issue. If the truck went out of service, I would not, if that thing blew an engine, transmission or rear end, in a note I sent to Chief Bradley, we're not gonna wood. I don't know how that TerraStar engine has lasted this long, because every other one I know is blown up. The engines go, and you can't buy a new one. You have to get a used one and take a like thing on it. So I would not, if the truck had a major catastrophic issue with it, I would tell the town not to put the money in it. And go with one truck, so. And the other thing too is like with the truck is we don't rotate that truck. The other trucks, when we had the two that are kind of like the same mileage, same years, we're rotating them. We don't rotate it, like today, right now, it's in service, because the other one, we're changing, putting tires and snow tires on, different tires. We don't like to rotate it, because to put use on it, because we want to just keep it, it's running backup truck. It's an issue, it's there, you know, it's.
Yes.
Buy a chassis, swap lots.
Nah, the problem, the problem is we looked at that when we did that with the GMC, to meet the new, the specs for the state and federal specs, you have to meet the now's, specifications. And like, for instance, like, Med 2, they had to modify the floor, to accept the powered stretcher. The new trucks are built that way. They won't let you do that on them. So most towns are not remounting boxes unless their boxes are the new spec, and that's not. I already thought of that.
I see it, it's got a box up on the ground.
Yeah, the junk. That truck's junk. I know that truck. But it's rust. New England's rust. In other states, you go to California, it's miles. They have 300,000 miles of nothing. Us, there's no miles. It's rust. And what the DPW dumps on the ground, calcium, always destroys.
Always not the fault.
Calcium
Keeps us safe,
chloride is
keeps
great,
us
but it
safe.
eats the heck out of your vehicle.
That's an issue. I mean, we can certainly get a quote and,
I have the quote.
run it by, we'll give you the quote and make a decision if you want to put that on for the annual free cash.
What are you talking about the 2 years or the one that saves 200,000? It's the same thing.
So the different manufacturers, there are manufacturers that are out there that are honoring their commitments to pricing on trucks, no matter what happens. So if we signed a contract on a truck, but the problem is the limited amount of vehicles, slots to be built are available, they'll honor that price. They're not going up on the price. Some of them are, but some of them aren't. So the problem is you can't sign a contract for money you don't have, so I think we're gonna end up not being able to get any of those deals.
Is this the bulldog?
We'd stick with, they have the state bid, they have if we want to get a truck that's almost exactly the same as the one we have. So, and this higher end, you know, the average town is spending about $560 for a truck. With a stretcher, the stretcher is about $60,000. We don't need the stretcher. Problem is, where it is in line on capital, it's on FY7 to replace that truck. But if we wait to 27 and order a truck, it could take 3 years.
My wife told me that she had a very smooth ride in.
I did.
In Med one the other day.
Yeah, that's why I switched trucks. I was switch trucks around when we got the other truck, the liquid ride versus the air. But anyways.
So can I ask a different question? So if you want to go and you want to say we're going to spend the 560, and then you get the opportunity, and it's going to cost 360, we're set, correct? Like you can swap that or?
No, the issue in order to be able to take advantage of ordering a truck that's already has a slot, basically the chassis is there, they just got to build the truck. You would have to sign a contract quickly, and you're not going to be able to do it because you need approval from that town meeting to be able to do it. So I think in the end.
Well, I think if we approve the money in May.
Would they hold it till May?
We'll be in a position where in May, we can start that process. Sign a contract.
Because if you do free cash, it's available now. If you went to risk appropriate, you gotta wait till July 1st.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of other things. That come to play with it, but it's just that when you're talking in the town budget, whatever you're thinking is that when you go to order something, you may not get it, especially in large capital vehicles. You may not get that vehicle for 3 years. That means you got to run. So when you reduce your maintenance budgets or any of the budgets, you got to run that old truck for another 3 years to get to that point where that money may come in.
They're gonna do it.
Yeah, it's just it gets expensive.
Well, it was worth the conversation.
Yes.
That's why I brought it.
Yeah, all they need to do is submit a request and
But
Put it on the warrant, we can always pull it.
Well, but I think your
How fast
point
is
is that
it?
even if it's on the warrant for May, we're still not gonna get the slot. So I think that's the point, right?
I get it in 26 instead of 27, 28.
Right.
So we still might save money because things don't go down. They just, right.
Same time and money.
And it's a significant amount of money. That's the, yes.
big money.
Yeah, they're not,
And if everybody agrees that we're gonna need to do it and we need to do it, like, we have the money,
yeah, we've got the money.
right? Like, so.
We don't want a Band-Aid on an ambulance, just like we don't want no coverage.
Yeah, that's why towns now are looking more so, Joe would be more versed than a dentist, is there actually, there was a trend that, we've never leased anything, I don't think ever, right?
Yeah.
We have, yeah,
There was a couple of ambulances we bought in the lease purchase.
I don't know about ambulances, but,
Yeah.
but
Well,
yeah,
they
but
leased a lease
they've
purchase.
gone back now looking at leases versus taking into account the big chunks of money away on that. So there's a trend to that again now. I was always told that, you know, to keep borrowing money, but not, so.
The basic problem with the lease purchase was that if you were had a 4-year lease purchase on it, and then you paid it for 3 years, and all of a sudden, somebody came along and decided,
Right.
we're not gonna fund it, you lose that vehicle.
Yeah.
Repo man comes.
Yeah, I know a tanker truck discovery, because that's from a volunteer fire, they got it themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, they lost it. Well, it's a shame, but. Any other questions? What was the question about the 100,000? What was that? Was that about the increase in budget? Oh, that's, yeah, it's contract and.
No, no question.
Yep, we're good. Everybody good? We're good.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Yes, you're up again.
Yeah.
That's because we like, go get some Mountain Dew.
Look what my mom did.
There you go.
You'd rather have no yellow, he told me.
I don't know if it's seen that year.
It's a citrus drink, so.
It's a nasty color.
Budgets. So I sent in a budget narrative for our next fiscal budget. And there are very minor changes. This is a, first of all, this is a level service budget. You're not looking at any additional personnel. And you're not looking at any cuts for personnel either. And I would go through the highlights on each division of the changes. For the highway division, we're looking at a $1,176,524 budget. And the budget is actually decreasing 0.3% from last year. And I'll explain why in a moment. So on the wage side, there was an increase associated with non-union merit and COLA, 2%. 2% cost of living adjustment and a step increase for the newly signed DPW union contract. And an increase associated with the COLA and the step increase for overtime wages. Under expenses, there is 2 decreases. And we took a hard look at the budget, tried to come up with some money that we could reduce, and felt comfortable enough to reduce 2 line items in particular. One is our paving, oiling and paving. And we recommended to reduce this down to 11,000 from 31,000 to 20,000, to 11,000. So we're saving $20,000. And the reason why we feel comfortable to do this is because last year the town gave the DPW $600,000 for paving roads. And it is my understanding through my negotiations with the town manager that that is going to happen again. And therefore we have an article for $600,000 for our road pavement program. In doing that and paving that amount of roads, there's a splashover effect. So some of these roads that we're using this oil and paving to do maintenance ourselves on keeping roads together, we're paving the whole roads. So there's a cost savings to us. I don't recommend that we reduce this permanently, but in years where we're going to have healthy article for paving roads, we certainly can reduce it in hopes of helping the budget get balanced for town meeting. The second line item is under consultant expenses. This line item was increased several years ago, when we had an influx of requests from residents to look at intersections for four-way stop signs or speed control studies, and these studies became expensive, so we came up with a $15,000 figure, figuring we could use this money for other things as well, for consultants, if I need someone to look at a dam, something else, but mainly for the traffic studies. And we have an article now which is addressing that. So I felt comfortable enough not to zero it, but to bring it down to 5,000 with a $10,000 reduction. So in expenses, we are recommending and feel comfortable that we can lower the expenses by $30,000. And that nets a 0.3% decrease in the overall highway budget. Any questions on highway? Never any questions when you're decreasing. Isn't that funny?
Yeah,
That's
it's
amazing.
always a good thing.
I'm gonna have to write an
See,
essay.
look at how happy Mr. Byrne looks.
Parks Cemetery, again, we're talking about a level service. We're not increasing any staffing. The total budget will be proposed at $387,212. This equates to an increase of 2.72% over last year's budget. And this is due to cost of living adjustment and step increase for union employees, the same COLA and step increase consideration for the overtime line items, and a cost of living adjustment for seasonal employees. On the expense side, the budget is exactly the same. There is no change. Any questions on Parks, Forestry, and Cemetery?
Two for two, you go.
Okay.
Don't see it.
Moving on to facilities. So for facilities, our recommended budget is $244,302. And this represents a decrease of 4% from last year. As you recall, last year was the first year that we actually had a facility maintenance division in the DPW. And with the new community center coming online, we've had an entire year now of looking at our utility costs, our maintenance agreement costs, our cleaning services, and all the costs associated with this. So when we put that first budget together a year ago, it was based on our best educated guess. And now we can look at trends and see what direction we're going. And we actually, there was a few line items that were underfunded that we had to move, but overall there were some line items that we thought we could reduce. And so we realized the savings within that division. Any questions on facilities?
That's great. No. 1,000 so far, Dennis. Keep it up.
Water Division recommended budget for fiscal year 26 is $1,097,865. And this represents a 6.45% increase. And the increase comes in the following ways. For salaries, we have the 2% cost of living adjustment and step increases for hourly employees. We have a 5% increase for overtime, and also for a change in the contract that added 3 additional paid holidays that will affect water and wastewater employees. Expenses, we have a 2%, sorry. There we go. Also, we have a 2% cost of living and merit for non-union, a $275 longevity bonus for an individual who received it for the first time, and one of the larger costs is $11,369 increase in pension costs. That's a number we don't have any control. On the expense side, we have a $15,000 increase in health insurance, a $500 increase in Medicare, and a $25,000 increase for our chemicals in our labs. We've noticed that last year, if you take a look at last year's budget and you look at the last week of the fiscal year and our final that Kenny puts out, you can see that we nearly went in the red on that budget. both for wastewater and water. They were both very close. And one of the things that we've been noticing is that our chemicals pricing has been increasing steadily over the years, but our budget has not. And we do more testing now. We have PFAS that we do on a regular basis, and our cost of our lab works have gone up. And that is my water recommendation budget. Questions?
Well, this is all self-supporting.
Sorry?
This all self-supporting at this time, or do we transfer general fund money to it?
For water, I'm sorry, we still subsidize for the debt. We still, it is,
Well, the debt,
it is lowering every single year. For
right,
wastewater, we are done.
the debt was voted.
Wastewater budget, we are recommending an $830,000, $818 budget. This is a 7.57% increase. With all the same suspects, you have the cost of living and the step increase for hourly employees for the voted contract. An increase of 5% for overtime based on the hourly rate and also the 3 additional holidays. Non-union, 2% cost of living plus merit, 275 for longevity for that employee that is shared between water and wastewater, and 11,369 increase in pension costs. On the expense side, we have a $15,000 increase in health insurance, just like we did on water, 450 for an increase in Medicare, and $15,000 increase for sludge disposal and lab expenses. Again, lab costs have gone up, and also the getting rid of our sludge has increased in costs. And that is the recommendation for wastewater.
That's a good question. Those 3 additional holidays.
So there are certain holidays in the union contract, off the top of my head, I don't remember them, that if the union employee has to work on those days, they get additional compensation. 3 were added, they're Mondays. Off the top of my head, I can't remember which ones they are. They don't really affect highway, parks, and cemeteries, but because water and wastewater, the wastewater plant has to be staffed 7 days a week by law. So they will affect those individuals. So on a Monday holiday, parks and cemetery and highway, provided it's not snowing, stays home. But someone for the wastewater plant has to come in. Sure. That is the DPW budget.
Any other questions?
Pretty straightforward.
Okay, I'm sorry. Mr. Flaherty, you look like you were thinking first.
I got a question on something else.
You're
Okay.
good?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Anticipation.
The suspense.
You know, I never ask a question that I don't know the answer.
I know, that's what's here.
I can see the wheels turning.
Through the chair, I also
Yes.
have some capital requests, if you'd like me to go through that.
Certainly, I have no problem with that.
For the highway division, this year, we are requesting $150,000 for the replacement of the backhoe. This is a piece of machinery that has been on our hit list now and deferred several times. It's 2004 Caterpillar 420D is the only backhoe the DPW has. And all of the divisions utilize it to some degree, but mostly it's used for highway and cemeteries. It has 2,253 hours on it. And I think we got really lucky with how, it's 21 years old, so we've done really well with it. But I can't defer it anymore. It needs to be replaced. And keep in mind, if this machine breaks, this machine goes out every day. There are days the loader doesn't, but the backhoe does every day. And if I lost this machine, I would have to rent something because we just park it and not use it.
Why don't we start that subject?
Yes.
Is there a lead time on that, or can you just go over to Caterpillar and take one off?
No, the backhoe, I think I can get in a relatively respectable.
They got a ton of bonuses.
We did good with the loader too. We didn't have to win in the loader.
I know, but I'm
It's the
saying
trucks that,
the availability of the loads, they must have 15 or 20% over there. Oh,
yeah,
You do a state bid on that, or?
yes. The second thing for highway is the of course, our $600,000 request for our pavement management plan. You all know what that's.
There was a long discussion last time about that.
Ongoing,
So, yeah, and the idea was way back in 2015, was when we were at 69 point something for our road rating, was to get us up to as close to 80 or there, once you hit 80 or above, you're into preventative maintenance. Much more cost effective. You get more money, more bang for your buck out of your regular routine maintenance and your budget for keeping the streets up. But you gotta get there first. And there was a program that was developed by Beta when they put our road program together that basically said, if you put aside this amount of money every year, in addition to your chapter 90, with an escalator, you should get there in X amount of years. We've had several years we didn't put anything to us. We couldn't. And it's understandable. Towns experienced that. We had money that had to go in other places that were more important, and we took a break from the road program, but we knew we would come back. We had a commitment from everyone on town floor that we would come back to. So this year, to 600, last year we did 600, and we're asking for 600 again this year.
But to your point, it's not a forever thing, right? It's not,
We get to a certain-
it's once we get to that,
It's gonna be like 200 every year.
that's right. Once we get back up to that 82, and I don't know that we know what the new sort of road rating is and all that, like that takes time to sort of get there, but we know we're at least got a few years of this, and then at some point, to your point,
We're just
it's not
maintaining.
forever 600, it's 600 to get us to that 82% of maintenance.
That's gonna be like the minimum local contribution, right? George?
Yeah, that's right.
Fixing that every year.
Every year, yeah, that's fair.
Well, keep in mind, it's important to understand that chapter 90 gives us about 315 and 316,000 a year. It's designed for preventative maintenance only. It's not designed to do full depth reconstruction of roads.
And I see what Morris gonna add a bunch of money to the chapter 90.
There's a rumor that we're gonna get a supplemental 150,000 or so this year,
How many miles of road do we have?
slow of 70. And in the last
23.
7 years, we've paid a little over 30 miles of road. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Facilities. For facilities, we are asking for $35,000. This is to be used to hire an architectural engineering company to come in and do what's called an envelope and masonry restoration study on the outside of Town Hall. Town Hall is a wood framed building with a brick outer structure. And brick and mortar is,
You don't seal it.
moisture. It gets in and it ends up causing mold issues and deteriorating the inside wood structure. Every 15 years or so, you should have your brickwork repointed and your outside masonry work sealed. However, this building is historical, and there are some permits and hoops that we have to go through to make sure we can't just hire a company to come in and repoint and seal the building. So we want to have an actual company come in, an architect come in and take a look at the windows and the caulking and the brick and say, we want to do the whole outside of the building in one shot and do it right. And so that we spend the right amount of money, you need a professional to come in and help us apply for those permits and make sure that we hit all the things. Keep in mind, we have to reach out to the state's historical society and get historical commission and get permission for whatever work we end up doing for this building.
Question.
Yes.
Any grants, historical grants?
I asked about that and nothing, to our, Weston and Sampson was the engineer. They're kind of the big boys on the block when it comes to stuff like this. And I have a lot of faith and a lot of experience with them. And they said they were looking around, but there was nothing right now that was standing out to them for this type of work. Always on the lookout for grants. Always. And that's it for facility capital.
Okay.
And I had Park Cemetery forestry on here for lights at Leland.
It's,
I thought it was there.
yeah, you have it.
Okay.
We just have.
No, I got confused earlier when I heard Recom.
See, XXXXX.
So now I'm wondering who's the sponsor.
You are.
Okay. Solve that.
That's what I have in my draft warrant.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We don't have a dollar amount associated with this. I'm in the process of doing some research. The last time the lights were redone at Leland, the school did it as part of a larger project. But they've kind of made it clear over the years through the maintenance and upkeep that it's the town's responsibility. It's a field that we oversee. So I know the lights are in tough shape. I know the electrical's out of code. I've had repairs up there frequently every single year. I think this is the right year we should be looking at what needs to be done, either a major upgrade, repair, or a complete replacement. So this is a placeholder.
I am in the process. I had a meeting with Jay Byer. We talked about this morning. We talked about a bunch of things. This is one of the things I brought on. Been exchanging emails with him throughout the day, and just in the last couple hours, Luke's Dennis in. So, you know, this is one of those things that we put this placeholder out there, but we're actively working as quickly as possible to identify how we can provide the detail, provide the money so that finance committee and the select board can have a good idea as far as the project.
Okay.
You should in the field, you're talking the basketball court, the tennis court, there's the grass field.
Grass fields.
Yeah, lighting.
They have their holes.
Are you new to this town?
I don't know. I remember my youngest 20-something years ago playing up there and there were no lights. Apparently we missed them somewhere.
Feels like
May I make a comment, to the chair?
Yes, Mr.
Yes, Rick McGuire.
Thank you.
About 4 years ago, we had a town meeting or a special town meeting, I don't remember which one. And we had allocated $75,000 to do an engineering study of the Leland Field. And that study was supposed to look at, well, one of the shortcomings was the left field porch was very short. And they were looking at extending that, potentially moving the tennis fields. They're looking at the irrigation. They're also looking at the flow of water on the field to eliminate water puddles in that field. And part of what they were supposed to look at was to look at illumination for that field, potentially. So there is $75,000 sitting there that, depending on how you want to pursue it, one was for an engineering study of that field to address some of these issues. The other part of this is talking to previous rec directors. Some of the neighbors in the past did not like the idea of field lights on the field and light pollution and playing beyond 9 o'clock. So not saying it's good or it's bad, but probably should check with the neighbors to see if lighting is in the best interest of everybody. But there is some money there that could be reallocated. And there's some other work that needs to be done to Leland Field, and that's the point.
Yes,
Could I ask Mr. McGuire?
absolutely.
Rick, who sponsored that? Who was the
Um,
sponsor of that 75,000?
That was the rec committee back maybe 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. Mr. Gazorian was running that, he was the chair of that committee back then. And he pushed that through. So, and last year there was still $75,000 sitting there. I don't know if it's still there this year, but it was there last year. And it's been 3 or 4 years.
That's better than a grant. It's been approved.
I need to.
Yeah,
see that sponsor. That's authority.
yeah, okay. Well, I'm sure
It
it's,
wasn't DPW.
okay, it's gotta be in the town report.
Okay,
We did.
thanks, Rick.
Appreciate it.
So the money must be under the Parks and Rec.
Potentially. Well, look in the town, it's
I'd love
gotta be in the town report whoever sponsored it.
CPC funds, because I didn't remember seeing that in the list of articles
I
that
don't remember seeing.
Kenny
I don't, I mean,
produced.
I have terrible memory, but I don't remember that.
2019, 2020.
Was it right around there?
That's why nobody remembers it. It was before the world shut down.
Yeah.
We've all had a brain blip since then.
I hope it's there.
Yeah, I hope so. It'd be nice if it was there.
Yeah. Like, did they do it or does it just, they
It's just, Rick said it was still there
they
last year.
approved it, but nobody spent the money?
think that, I don't think it worked.
Okay, funding, Article 12 from the 2020 annual town meeting On motion of Dave Laper, it was moved that the town vote to transfer up to $35,000 from the community preservation undesignated fund balance to fund 50% of the design and engineering for Leland Field per the concept outlined in the recreation master plan. So, well, look to see where the other 50% was.
Free cash?
CPC.
Yeah, 50% was CPC. Was the other 50% from free cash?
Yeah, so
No, Joe, that was COVID year, right?
Yes.
Yes.
That was the town meeting of the field.
Yes.
but the point is the money was approved, but the study was never done.
Correct.
Well, we'll
We'll
find
we'll pull,
the unused money.
How did
Right.
the lights get there?
yeah, we'll pull the information and at least then,
Yeah.
we can,
Let's use the $30,000 for the study to replace the lights.
But you can listen, keep in mind.
I know we can't do that.
If this is considered maintenance, you can't use CPC money. But you can, right,
But you can fund a study.
you can probably understand.
You could send a whole-
Maintenance, you cannot use CPC money.
Mhm, right. Not maintaining if you're replacing, two different words.
Well, that's a good memory, Mr. McGuire. Nice job.
Thank you.
Good one.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's the way.
No, sir, I'm right here for you.
May I? Madam Chair?
Yes, absolutely.
Property over there at 9 Milford Street, for some reason, has a soft spot. And we have a playground there,
Yes.
which has the rubber base, boarding place playground.
Yes.
And 2 years ago, when that was being put in there, I had a conversation with the lady from Site Specific, who was the vendor. How long is this gonna last? Oh, maybe 10 years. How much can it cost to replace it? 100,000. Oh, I had this conversation with Mr. Manager, and Dennis and I have talked about it briefly. My thought would be to create a playground capital account and put money in there on a regular basis. All of a sudden, you're gonna have to come up with 10 grand or 100 grand, to replace that rubber base over there. That's gonna be a big ask. And if you don't replace the rubber base, you're not gonna be able to use the playground.
And I think it's,
Because, you get to the point where it's not safe. It will not be ADA compliant or something like that.
and I think it's
So,
pretty safe
you
to
know,
assume, Mr.
the-
Clarity, in 10 years, it's going to be more than 100.
Well, yeah, and the manager has said, well, why don't we just put it into into the capital stabilization account? And with all due respect, let me everybody will remember that it's there. I don't know, if it's there, cite it specifically in economic stabilization, because not only do you have the rubber base, you have all that equipment over there. There is the adaptable swing that's in there, okay? That was I want to say that little swing is like $1,500.
Mhm.
Okay? It didn't last 2 weeks, and it got broken. The latch was broken. Thankfully, Site Specific replaced it at no charge. Okay? But there's a lot of stuff over there. And you get those the slides and things. There's things over there that is gonna require maintenance. And, I'm not gonna, bring Dennis into this, but, I think conversations we've had, that, yeah, we gotta do something with that. In addition, there's work that's supposed to be done with that on a regular basis to maintain the warranty.
Is it being done?
Not my job.
And That's right, Mr. Flaherty, you officially retired our last meeting and disbanded. I was being as sarcastic as you are.
We realized that it needs to be regular routine. And this year it will be done. Last year, we had a reprieve from a lot of the maintenance because there was a 2-year warranty on the building, which ends in April.
Okay.
So an awful lot of the costs that are going to be associated with routine maintenance are now going to be realized by the division, facilities division, that haven't been in the past. That's one. Mr. Flaherty is 100% correct.
And all the greenery that's over there. I kept saying to the architect, who's gonna take care of it? Who's gonna take care of it? All this grass, put down concrete and paint it green. Now you got all this greenery over there. Somebody has to take care of it, or it looks like hell.
Through the chair.
Yes,
So, he's correct. There's probably
Repeat
more.
that.
Who'd you say? I said you were correct. I'll put it down in writing later.
oh, we're being recorded.
There's probably more landscaping around the community center than there is collectively throughout the rest of the town buildings. Really, it's that much. So one of the things that the town manager and I discussed is we may have the opportunity to tap into some funding that we already have, that we're aware of, to bring an outside firm in twice a year, once at the beginning, to prep everything, prune everything, make sure everything's healthy, and put the mulch down, because that's considerable. Then my staff would maintain it through the summer, spring, summer, and fall, and then at the end of the year, help us get everything ready for winterizing. Because you're talking about such a large amount of landscaping that's extremely costly, and we wouldn't want anything to happen to it. And my staff really is not capable. We do well when the seasonal employees come on, but we only have them for such a short time.
And plus, if you don't maintain your shrubbery and everything else, it gets overgrown and then you're replacing because some things aren't supposed to be 10 feet tall.
Like there's right, like there's building maintenance and then there's sort of like the landscaping maintenance. And we need a landscaping maintenance plan. And that's not necessarily what the summer help is trained to do. Pruning bushes,
Exactly.
taking care of shrubs, like, yeah, they can mow and edge and do
That was
whatever,
my point.
right?
We
But
can't
that's-
let
I
it-
think, right, like
Because it just goes.
so I totally agree. I think we need to take care of it. I think we need to take care of the rubber. If we need to set up an account to do that, however we need to do that, we got to figure it out because I think we need to maintain and build into our budget and our forecasts and our plans the ongoing maintenance of these investments that the town makes. We can't just let the stuff go for 30 years and then all of a sudden we're having to spend $600,000 a year like we are on the roads. Like you want to maintain what you have.
To your point, there are people out here that, oh, let's fix this, let's take this on. We haven't had enough time taking care of what we have,
That's right.
let alone adding more facilities or more. I mean, you can put the building there, okay, but you still need the people to run it. So, you know, we built the community center. Now people are complaining, oh, we're gonna add help there. Gee, didn't you think that was gonna happen when we built the building? Come on.
So
I haven't heard anybody complaining.
So one of the things is that we can create special stabilization accounts. We could easily just because, and this is where it becomes a policy question between the select board and the finance committee. We could take 100,000, put it into create a special recreation community center stabilization account. It would accrue interest over that period of time. You can also supplement so that in 10 years it's available. The other thing is that the select board is going to have to decide, like we received the Harvey J. Trask trust donation. That is supposed to be used for beautification of the town, including general cleaning, repair, maintenance of public spaces of the town of Upton, but also to be used to install landscaping, ornamental shrubbery, and all those things. We have some of the mechanisms to basically just hire, as Dennis said, because this is sort of the conversation that he's referring to outsource some of those things to do the work, the summer maintenance that then is easier for us to do. And then we revisit. We do have those systems, and just becomes the question, like, do we want to just right now just create that special stabilization? And because it's only devoted to that, we don't have to worry about if we have $1 million in capital stabilization, people forgetting, oh yeah, we have to keep track of 100,000 out of that, make sure we can deal with the play surface
The trash,
for the equipment.
the trash can is, what, 250,000 is spent, right?
But the proceeds of the remaining, what are essentially one,
Then I know it's to the main account, yeah.
so we'll have 30, 40,000.
Is that an interest, expendable only?
Yes, exactly. So we'll have a reoccurring, just like the other trust funds, for that specific.
My basic point was, this isn't gonna go away, and if you don't take care of it, you know. Anyway, whatever you call it.
I'm a firm believer in every penny you spend on maintenance, you save down the road. You know, that's why it's called preventive maintenance, to hopefully prevent the large expense. So
I
I
mean,
think it's a good idea. I don't think it's anything, we're the ones that are supposed to think of this. You know, and Mr. Flaherty, you've lived to breathe that project for many years. And now that the warranties are up, we need to make sure that the playground is covered and maintains its safety as well as the landscaping. We can't just let it go. So if it needs to be created, oh, well,
I will,
is this where you're gonna tell, yeah, I was just saying, you're gonna tell me you're not gonna be here. Mr. Flaherty, you may be here longer than all of us, just because. Stop it, both of you.
oh, okay.
Next item? Yes, absolutely.
Any long lead trucks, vehicles, if we're gonna consider doing the ambulance, we have other long lead items that we want to borrow against it or do it.
Well, we have that one truck that we're still waiting on, that by the time it gets here, we'll have been 3 years to get that truck. And I recall there was a struggle to convince the town to go for that truck because they thought we should wait a little longer.
that was the one we did on the COVID.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
And I was petrified that we were gonna end up in a lot of trouble. And I will tell you, we didn't have it last winter. We didn't have it this winter. I'm hoping I have it for next winter. And the kingpins went in it, and those are rather expensive. And I haven't put them in it. It's terrible to spend money on something. I mean, we don't really have to use the spreader anymore. You could just put the salt in the back and drive it down the street and it leaks out all the holes. So.
Do you have any other vehicles, not the one you're replacing, anything else that?
No, everything, we have stuff on our capital, but nothing that I'm concerned with. I know exactly what you're saying, Steve. I don't have anything I'm really concerned about for. Our larger trucks are pretty good, and it'll be a while before we replace them.
And just thinking longer lead, if we're gonna consider an ambulance, and we have another 500,000, now we have $1 million. Do we borrow against that, and can you find a little raise whatever?
We do very well in public works here. We get at least 20 years out of our big trucks. Which not many towns that do
If
that.
you take care of it.
Yeah.
Any more questions, comments?
Bad jokes?
We're full of them every night. Okay, so thank you. I appreciate you
Thank you,
coming,
Dennis.
Dennis. The next would be public input or comment. Is there anybody from the public that would like to make a remark? Online, in person? Any board members have any enlightening comments?
There's one.
Is there one on? Yes, I don't know. There's a hand up online. Joe has just, it says L. It
Yeah,
says
whoever
L.
has their hand raised, they've unmuted. Let's.
Hi, I'm sorry, through the chair, when you're just.
Please identify yourself.
Through the chair, Lynn Haggerty, sorry.
Okay, thanks, Lynn.
Cider Mill Lane, when you were discussing the rubberized membrane for the community center to be replaced, this may be something you can apply for the MOD grant for. I know we replaced the Memorial School membrane some years ago. And I had made that recommendation to them, but we ended up funding that anyways, but this is something that would probably fall into that category. So if you could keep that in mind, the the mod municipal grant for accessibilities.
Okay, thank you, Lynn.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, moving right along, street sign, yes, please.
Finance committee, if you want to do that, now? Sure. Welcome to join the finance committee.
Okay. I have 7:50.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, so next up is street sign request for Brookside Street. Yes, if you'd like to take a chair, be very careful when you sit down. They take off. I warn everybody and nobody.
It's a wild chair.
It is, it's on the, people just tend to go flying backwards and everybody thinks I'm nuts when I warn them, but it's embarrassing when you bounce off the wall. Please identify name and address for the record, please.
My name is Julie Garceau, and
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
And I filled out a request for a street sign. Lately, I have just noticed people just like flying down Brookside Street. It's this a very skinny street. I know it's a town road, and I would assume that someone measured it to make sure that cars could get by. But I can tell you that the people that live on it never passed. You know, we always back down to the right of it. So there's a couple of areas that are pretty steep. It also has a dip in it that is really hard to see over when you're going down. And so we've had Amazon trucks, UPS trucks just come flying down. And if somebody is ever coming up, it's not going to be pretty. There's just not room to get out. So I was just, I filled out a request and said, you know, I'm not sure what kind of sign would be there. I don't think a speed limit sign would do, just because you tell somebody to go slow, you know, I'm not sure that would work. But maybe something that says narrow road or dead end or slow down, please. Something like that would probably be helpful. I think the sign needs to be for going down the street. Coming up the street, when you're coming up the street where the little whoop-de-doo is that you can't see over going down, you'll be able to see somebody that direction. So that is just my request. I think it's a safety issue, and I just wanted to put it forward.
okay. Mr. Westgate, I saw you nodding your head. Do you have any comments?
I'm in agreement with the dead end street. I think that it's only 611 feet long. It's a very short road. It doesn't meet astro regulations today. You couldn't build a road that narrow. You can barely get two vehicles to pass each other without touching mirrors. That's how narrow it is. And it services, I think, 3 or 4 homes.
4 homes.
4 homes, right. So most of the truck traffic that you're going to get would probably be delivery to those 4 homes. You're not going to get anything but that. But I would think maybe occasionally someone takes a wrong turn and they think it's a cut through, or they can get somewhere else for it, which is why I think a dead end sign would be most appropriate.
Is there such a sign that says caution, narrow road? Or am I?
Yeah, we have to look at the manual of uniform traffic control devices to see what they recommend for, but I get the point you're trying to make. I think
Because if it's not wide enough to be built today, and I think probably when it was built, nobody was online shopping and we all online shop. And so, you know, I see it personally, I see an Amazon truck and avoid it as much as possible because I just assume it's going to hit something. They are the most horrific drivers.
Yeah. So
There's a piece of the road right past number 2 Brookside Street that there's rocks on both sides of the road, so you couldn't get over if you wanted to.
Okay.
You know, so.
You know, extremely narrow road or dangerous road or some with, I don't know if that would even slow them down.
I would look for, I think the dead end is appropriate and something to the effect of narrow road, use caution.
Yes,
Something that I have to stay within the language of the law.
exactly.
I'm sure there's something along that lines. If the board so wishes, that's what I will do.
I think it should be done.
I totally agree.
I would definitely, just so people who are unfamiliar with it realize, A, it's a dead end, you're not going anywhere, and B, it's extremely narrow.
Now, something down below, I don't necessarily see as a benefit because you had to go by the sign that said it's a dead end and caution, it's narrow. When
Right.
you entered, most likely you're doing the delivery with fuel, Amazon or something. So you already know what kind of a street you're on when you're leaving.
That would make sense. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of common sense left in this world, but let's hope.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
There may be hope for the future. We can only cross our fingers.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Yes, recommended by DPW.
Yes.
As recommended, yeah.
yes. Thank you, Mr. Westgate. Thank you.
Well,
There's a-
motion.
Do we need a motion? Yes, do I hear a motion?
I move that the select board vote to approve the installation of a sign at the DPW director's discretion on Brookside Street.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you for waiting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for waiting. Your patience is appreciated.
I don't think we submit more important topics with that here.
They're all important. Thank you.
They are. Recreation, Maria, thank you for hanging around.
Oh, again.
Like,
Hello.
We could have probably reworked the agenda.
We probably should have taken a look. You gotta admit, it's been scintillating.
It's good to hear about.
Yes.
Well, again, so we're actually very excited this year to ask again for the financial assistance program between us and social services coordinator. And this year we're asking for $15,000. Last year we had an initial ask of 10,000. We ended up coming back and asking for an additional 5,000 because we ended up paying almost 12,000 for the year. This year we already have repeat asks of families that are looking to come back, additional kids of the same families, new families. We haven't opened the application obviously yet, but we're seeing interest again, and I think it's
Okay.
so we're hoping to open up that 15,000 to be able to cover at least the rates.
I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a fantastic use of those funds. We finally found an outlet for distributing some of these funds to people in the community. And just so that folks remember, as a reminder, right, like this is a scholarship or a grant for Upton residents that are deemed to be in financial need by our social services director. They go through a process and they get credit and basically financial support to participate in Kids at Play over the summer. So it's a wonderful way to help families in Upton that might be struggling with childcare over the summer. So
I would add, if anybody's watching this and they have children that would like to attend Kids at Play and they are not financially able to go over to the community center, to ESS, and they have the forms and they will help them.
We actually this year we're going to do it online.
Nice, okay.
Transition to that technology, but yeah, I apologize. To go over the requirements again, we are doing it following any of the school guidelines. So anyone who qualifies for free lunch or a certain annual income based on we just follow the state guidelines.
Exactly, and like I said, it's always worth a question.
Yep.
Whether or not you qualify, your children may have summer camp. It's a great program. We love it. You love it?
And
You
it's
appreciate it?
and it would cover the day program, extended morning, extended afternoon, which are additional costs. We are going to this year delay the applications for field trips because we want to ensure that primarily everybody has access to Kids at Play during the day and extended morning or afternoon. And then we'll be able to add field trips in addition to that later if we have the funds.
That makes perfect sense.
Great.
Any more comments, questions?
Nope.
Do I hear a motion?
I move that the select board vote to approve the request submitted by the recreation director and elder and social services director for $15,000 from Racine Trust Fund to fund the financial assistance program for 2025.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you for hanging around. We appreciate it.
Thanks, too.
We're skipping over 7B, which is the discussion of the reuse of Holy Angels, and we've moved that to February 25th.
Yes.
So, C, request from the Historical Society to use the first floor of the Racine for artifact cataloging.
So in the board's packet, you have basically a document that is a email exchange between Linda Gay and myself, responding to questions. She had reached out about using the first floor for a limited period of time for cataloging historic artifacts associated with the boot shop. So you see sort of like our dialogue as far as asking questions and her providing responses. This was enough of and then there's also photos that's included of the boot shop. Because this was enough of a request, I wanted to bring it in front of the board to consider and approve. It is with the municipal facility. The select board is in charge of municipal facility, so put it on the agenda for this meeting. I think with some of the responses that she provided, I feel some of the concerns I'd have as far as damage is taken care of. I do believe Linda is online as well and can probably chime in. And I did receive confirmation that the Historic Society themselves is making this request.
Linda, would you like to add anything? Or comment?
Actually, I would just comment that I did follow that up with initially using the downstairs. We don't need that much room. That was the shelving that was attractive to me in terms of organizing it. And we do have a professional boot maker coming in to assist with that. The shelving was great, and having some surface area where the desk is was just going to be very helpful. But if you're uncomfortable at all with us using that space, or it feels like it's inconvenient in terms of letting us in and out, which I don't know exactly the dates of when we'll be wanting to access that, but it'll definitely be more than one day. Then we could, now that I've seen through the window what it looks like in that back room that used to be the Board of Health. They have some old desks in there. They've got some shelving in there. I mean, we don't need a suite space to do this. It's really just having room to spread out a little bit, because it's boot shop and blacksmithing. It's just a lot of different things. But it also, just so you know, it's none of the large pieces that are in the boot shop. We're talking about moving tools, shoes, smaller items. There's so much big in there. There's a pot-bellied stove and an entire anvil and things that are not going to be moved. They'll be moved within the boot shop, and we'll be cleaning up in there. But anyway, so happy to use the Board of Health space if that feels more comfortable. Either way, I'll apply all the same standards of protecting the rug and all that kind of thing.
My comment, Linda, would be if the bigger space is easier to move around and works for your needs, that's fine.
Let's use it.
If you get in there and say, oh, we only have a little bit, so we'll use the old Board of Health, you can feel free to make that decision, because once you're in the building, you're in the building.
Yep.
And we trust that you will, very complete as always, your proposal. And, we trust the Historical Society. They know exactly what they're doing.
Well, I think it's a matter of access after, sort of just trying to get in there last weekend. And if it feels like Joe is going to have to, or Mike or someone is going to have to come over to unlock the door, and it would be the thing that would be most appreciated, I guess, at this point, is having more fluid access because of the nature of the calendar. So if the Board of Health space, there are doors all throughout that. So it's not particularly, you do have to unlock doors to get from the Board of Health into the library. Anyway, just to really whatever maybe would give me access with a key and just less inconvenience. Otherwise, we'll use the key, and we'll have somebody come over and meet us, and then we'll make that work. But I would say the back space is fine. But
I mean,
thank
one of
you.
the things, I don't think there's really a difference between the library space or the board of health space. We have a key for the handicap access. Once we just go over making sure how an alarm is set and all those things, the historic society is there. They're an occupant on the second floor.
Exactly.
Let it concern
Keys
more,
already? I mean, I'm assuming they've got.
not for the first floor library space. But we have keys that then we can, and review protocol and all.
Exactly, just go over so they know what they're doing, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. And if it's
That's
easier
easier
with
than
the
calling
ramp.
Police or calling.
Getting police, exactly.
Yeah, or having you having to go over theirs.
Looks like it will all come together. Do we have any more comments?
Nope.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Yes, I move that the board vote to allow the Historical Society to utilize a portion of the first floor of the Ristine building for cataloging, bootmaking tools and blacksmithing tools through May 15th, 2025.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, Linda, for bringing this forward.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Have a nice night.
You guys too.
Thank you. Town Council RFQ.
So you have the draft document in front of you. It's red line showing the corrections that I made. And if the board is all set, we can get things out on the street. If you wanna, if you have any comments, I'd gladly receive them. This is the only thing that I would really be doing from this draft is just correcting the time frame when things are due to line up, because not knowing if you want to take more time, look at it, continue it to another meeting. If you're fine, then we'll do something that then essentially has responses due and sometime in March, and then build out a schedule from there.
Yeah, I mean, other than the dates, Maureen, do you have any comments?
No, just the dates, they're the January, second dates.
Obviously, we missed those.
Yeah.
At least that's why.
Exactly. I knew that. See, I didn't say anything. Brett? I kind of did, but I didn't.
Oh, I do have.
Exactly. No, I
They're
mean,
just
this is a
bidding for the
24-page
job,
contract,
right?
so
I had both of you simultaneously. Brett, can you say, and then,
I'm comfortable with the contract as written.
okay, Maureen.
I just saw the word bid. And there's no bids for RFQ. Just to say they want a response.
We'll change bid to responses and I think we're fine. Okay. And I'm scrolling furiously. Do I need a motion on this?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, because you're ahead of me because I'm still scrolling furiously.
Do you want to,
Yeah, somebody wants to make a motion?
Grid.
I'm ready if you want, Maureen.
Go ahead.
All right, I move that the select board vote to authorize the town manager to advertise the request for proposal for town council services as proposed and amended.
Do I hear a
Second.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, execution of National Grid streetlight conversion agreement.
So this is, National Grid requires all these license and agreements, to be signed for us to start this project. Amazingly, it's only for 3,900, which is what the article was for town meeting, basically granting, approval to, start this process. There's a lot of basically administrative documents that they just sent over. And it literally is like 70 pages. I was not gonna put that in the packet, but it's all their standard language.
To make it 150
For
something.
3,600 and something dollars for streetlights.
Yeah.
So, this is also pretty standard because this is something that, North Bridgeport and all of the adjacent towns have done this exact same program. CMRPC through their green communities, staff has been assisting myself and Bill Taylor, basically administer this program. This is the last thing, and then we're gonna, with execution, we're gonna then send, copy to National Grid, and then we're gonna be able to get going and start a timeline on, replacing the fixtures with LED. It's just, it's just the goosenecks. It's, they will come back to us, DPW, as well as myself, and I'll bring that to the board on the specifications on the lights once they do an inventory, because one thing we will have to decide on is temperature and color, because these things can be set and programmed.
Yeah.
You don't want the bright blue light, you don't want the bright yellow, you want to have something that's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, but also you have to be aware of bugs.
I've traveled in other cities and like I've seen new streetlights that are like literally like, and I think there were two colors I've seen, like a yellow, and like a sort of muted blue, not like the bright blue, but like a blue color light that, and I don't know if these are coming from the Dark Skies initiatives and they sort of say like, oh, these are the lights that are good for whatever, but they provide adequate lighting for traffic, but limited impact on light pollution or whatever. So I don't know if that's why I've seen those different colored lights or if people just do, I don't know. But like there's even more than just sort of the warm lighting, cool lighting. Like they can make these things any color.
Now I'll have to start paying attention.
Yeah, right, you'll see.
Because you don't see something till,
Yeah.
you know, you buy a red car,
driving
now
New York,
every
like,
car
you go
is
like
red.
through Hartford or Connecticut, like some of the trails like there and out towards like the Catskills is where I've seen. So
Okay.
So those types of decisions, once we start the inventory, they're gonna be looking for that detail. So we'll bring that as well
Okay.
here where what is gonna
We
happen.
can start looking
Exactly.
at
Yeah.
streetlights now.
I don't know. Well, I think they'll do that. I mean, right, because we've been pretty clear the whole time about the whole, like, let's not like just make these things, because you can make them so bright too. It's like, it's not, our goal isn't, brighter is not better. Right? Like we want minimal
Yeah.
lighting for safety.
We just want sufficient
Minimal, right, exactly, the exact amount of light to be safe
lighting.
and do the least amount of damage to the
Exactly.
environment and people's windows when they're trying to sleep.
Right. Okay.
What do you think, Dennis?
It's amazing what they do with technology. You know, the funny part is they're all the same light.
Mm-hmm.
It's no different than if you go to Home Depot or Lowe's today, and you want to buy outdoor LED floodlights,
Get it.
you're right, you're gonna do your homework before you go there.
I went in there to buy a light bulb and I was like, spent 20 minutes or something. Like, I just want a light bulb. Light bulb.
I was standing in front, literally, I was standing, it's not the same thing, but I was standing in front of the cheese display the other day going,
No, it's the same.
you know, I grew up asking white or yellow.
What? Yeah,
And now I have 27 types to choose
like,
from.
it's one of
And
those things.
I just
like,
want one type of cheese. I don't want mixed. I don't want,
It's almost too many options.
there are,
So trust the experts,
right.
which is you, Dennis.
Oh, lights.
Not online. You're like,
Well,
nope,
we'll
not a-
trust the national.
But you know who the experts are.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the key, I guess.
So do I hear a motion?
I move that the select board vote to authorize the town manager to execute the necessary agreements with National Grid for conversion of streetlights.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's done. So approval of regular and executive meeting minutes. And I have to fess up, I did not get a chance to look at the regular meeting minutes.
Then we will not approve it
We can wait till
Yeah,
the
next
next
time.
meeting. I will
Fine.
appreciate it.
sorry, Susan.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Keep saying it.
There'll be
They are.
there'll be an uproar from this community saying where are our minutes?
Yes, I know. Someone in my house decided that sleep was not necessary, so I've been a little deficient lately. So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn the meeting of February 11th, 2025 at
8:13.
13.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. We are all done.